Hi everybody, welcome back to Mando Lessons. My name's Baron Collins Hill. In this week's lesson, I want to talk about 5 different ways that I use to learn by ear faster that I think can be really helpful and maybe some ideas you haven't thought about before. So stick around and I'll hopefully get you learning tunes faster, learning songs faster, and just building a better musical ear so you can join in faster with the folks around you and make better musical choices on the fly. Whether you've been playing mandolin for only a couple days or for years, you probably are familiar with or will become familiar with soon the idea of playing music with other people. That's what it's all about. It really is the most fun you can have playing music is getting out there and playing music with other people. It doesn't matter if it's an old-time jam or a bluegrass festival or an Irish session or just sitting around playing some songs, some folk songs or rock songs with your buddies. Ultimately, that all comes down to getting out there and getting out of your comfort zone a little bit and playing with other people. But when you get out there and play with other people, immediately, the stress level goes up. You don't want to make mistakes. You don't want to make a fool of yourself in front of other people. So the best thing you can do is practice. The first time you go out, regardless of whether you nail all the notes or not, it's going to be a little uncomfortable. It's your first time in a new social musical setting, so just continuing to go back is going to be a huge part of it. But I also want to dive into those 5 ideas about ear training that can really help you kind of integrate with a jam quicker and make more make smarter musical choices, if you will, to sort of increase your odds of doing the right thing at the right time. Step number 1 is to figure out what time signature you're playing in. Now that sounds complicated. You might not know anything about time signatures. So another way to think about it is, what kind of tune are you playing? This mostly is an issue in Irish music where there's multiple different kinds. You're most likely to see jigs and reels in Irish music and some waltzes. Jigs are in 6/8 time and they have this special right hand pattern. Down, up, down, down, up, down, down, up, down, down, up, down. For example, a tune like Out on the Ocean, which is the tune of the month for the Mando Lessons Academy, has that down, up, down, 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 up, down, down. That sort of repeating 3-note or 6-note cycle, down, up, down, really puts the tune into a certain groove that's a little peculiar if you're only used to playing old-time music or bluegrass, where there's mostly just reels, or they might call them hoedowns or breakdowns. But ultimately, if you're in Irish music, you might run into jigs, you might run into hornpipes and reels. Ultimately, as you learn more repertoire in a particular style, you'll start to learn more of what that means, and just sort of keeping that idea in your head. So when I sit down at a jam, maybe I don't know what's going on, the first question I ask myself is, what kind of tune is this? Again, if you're playing old time or bluegrass, it's probably just, a fiddle tune in 4/4, or a reel, or a breakdown, whatever you want to call it. If you're in Irish music, it might be a jig. All of those styles also have a lot of waltzes, which are in 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. But figuring out, what kind of tune you're playing, what time signature the tune is in, if that's a helpful metric for you to know, that can also really help you know what to do with your right hand, because there's different picking patterns for different kinds of tunes out there. So step 1, what kind of tune is it? What time signature is it in? That's really a great way to just center yourself in the tune and figure out what's going on. Step number 2 is figure out what key you're playing in. Now, if you start learning repertoire in a particular style, you might realize, hey, I don't spend a lot of time playing in the key of, let's see, A flat or, F sharp. Keys like that are kind of uncommon in a lot of mandolin repertoire. Not out of the question, especially if you're in bluegrass or singing a lot of songs where the singer needs to be in a particular range. But when it comes to, kind of standard mandolin repertoire, you're often operating out of the key of G, D, A, maybe sometimes C, maybe a major, it could be minor, but it's kind of a condensed number of keys that you're likely to run into. A great way to figure out what key you're in, if you hear a song and you're just like, okay, I'm hearing this song or this tune, you can use open strings and just kind of noodle around a little bit on the fretboard to sort of see if you can find a note that sounds good. So if you hear a tune, you might say, okay, well, let's see. Ya da da ga da da da. Let's see, does a G sound good? Ya da da ga da da da. Not so much. A, ya da da ga da da da. It's okay. How about D? Ya da da ga da 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 ga da 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 da. That D note sounds pretty good over the whole tune, so there's a good chance it's in D. Another thing to think about is you can often look towards the end of the tune, the final note of the tune. Where's the big resolution, and what note is that? That's often will tell you, I'd say 90% of the time what the key of the tune is in. If you're reading it off of sheet music, you could look at the key signature. How many sharps or flats, that can give you some information, but not always. So you really want to find, that you can use your ears is one of the biggest things, and just sort of finding a note that sounds good all the way through, sounds like the key, it sounds like the tonic center, whatever words you want to use to think about, finding that tonic center, finding the key of the tune, along with step number 1, which was finding out the time signature or the type of tune that you're playing. Those are the two big ones. You're like, okay, I know it's a jig in the key of D. Maybe you get to that point. That's going to open up a whole world where it's like, okay, well, I know a D scale, and I know my right hand's supposed to be having this kind of down, up, down, down, up pattern. That's going to unlock a lot of stuff and kind of remove you from making other choices like, well, okay, you're not going to be playing in the key of C as a reel if you've identified that it's in the key of D in a jig. Kind of a simple statement, but it's really good to sort of identify the different parts of the tune so that you can better understand what your role is and what you're likely to be needing to play. Step number 3 is to figure out the form of the tune or song. So in the case of a tune, you'll often hear me teach tunes on this channel that are I'll talk about them being A, A, B, B, and that means there's an A part and a B part, and you play each twice. So you play the A part, then you play the A part again, then you play the B part, play the B part again, go back to the A part again. You get that cycle of A, B, B. But sometimes there's a third part, so it might be A, B, B, C, C, A, B, B, C, C. Or you might have a single tune where it just goes A, B, A, B. It might be a little bit crooked, like a lot of Quebec tunes. Tunes from Quebec have a little extra measure here and there, or a little measure taken away. Just sort of just focusing on the form of the tune. If you're thinking about songs, it might be like verse, chorus, bridge. Could be a little bit of sort of like the arrangement of like how the song is put together. Paying attention to that just, again, helps you know what to expect, gives you a little cycle to run through, rather than always second guessing and asking yourself, like, oh, what's going to come next? If you can just identify the form, how the tune cycles through, that's going to be a big thing that'll really help you just pick up tunes a lot quicker by identifying the form of the tune in question. Once you figured out the form of the tune, let's call it AABB for this example, you say, okay, I'm going to go AABB, AABB. I've got that idea in my head. You can look towards the inside of the tune to find what I call internal repetition within the tune. So if we take a tune like Flop-Eared Mule, for example, a great old-time tune in the key of D, I'll play the A part. Repeats that part. Different ending. Again, so it's like phrase 1, phrase 2, ends up, back to phrase 1, ending phrase, ends down, kind of resolves. You can think of it as like kind of question and answer phrases, but you'll often find, that first and third phrase of that tune are identical. So finding those internal repetitions makes it so you're not saying, like, oh, here's another phrase I need to learn. You're saying, oh, here's a phrase I've already learned. I'm just going to plug that in to this situation. Makes it, rather than, as you start to condense tunes down into internal repetition and AABB, finding all the ways that they just repeat themselves, you say, okay, it takes 60 seconds to get through AABB, but the two A's are identical and the two B's are identical, so that kind of cuts the amount of notes I need to learn in half and just, convert that into repetition rather than new musical material. And then you look within the tune and you say, okay, first phrase, second phrase, third phrase, same as the first. Fourth phrase is half the same as the second, and a little ending phrase that's a little different. That can really help you just sort of, get more of the form. Just it's kind of an extension of that idea of knowing the external form, look into the tune, find those internal repetitions, and stop worrying about what those notes are and just start thinking of them as phrases. So you say, okay, this tune goes phrase 1, phrase 2, phrase 1 again, phrase 3, which is an altered phrase 2. And finally, step number 5, repeat, repeat, repeat. The best thing you can do to really get comfortable with these tunes is, stay active in your mind, think about all those previous steps, and just get into the groove. Try to build some muscle memory, and a lot of that just comes from, going to a jam session every week if you have the opportunity, or as regularly as you can, hearing the same tunes over and over again. Slowly, you'll start to recognize tunes. Even if you don't know the tune, you'll say, oh, I heard that tune last week. Oh, I've heard that tune every week in the last 6 months that I've been here. Probably a good way to, a good time to learn that tune is when you start hearing it so many times, you start recognizing it even when you don't know it. That can really help. We're always mimicking musically what we're hearing. So if you spend the time listening and going to the jams, even if you don't know all the tunes and it's a little awkward at first, if you keep going, the only thing that can happen is you slowly start to pick up the repertoire, you start to meet people, make new friends, maybe break off into little jam sessions at your house every once in a while rather than the big session. Whatever it may be, putting in the time, just having fun with that cycle of playing through tunes a bunch with a bunch of other folks. That's one of the most important things, and really there's no substitute for really just listening to a lot of music and spending as much time playing with other people as you can. As I said at the beginning, I know getting out there and playing music with other people is intimidating, but hopefully these steps can help you make that process a little easier. Also, I want to say that I have a course called The Comprehensive Mandolin that's specifically geared towards how to find other people to play with, what the differences are between Irish music, old-time music, bluegrass, what skills you're going to need. Am I supposed to take a solo in Irish music? Am I supposed to only play melody in bluegrass? All of those questions I go over in The Comprehensive Mandolin. If you want to learn all about it, you can find the link in the description. You can also join the Mando Lessons Academy, where we have a Tune of the Month challenge. That's a great way to build up repertoire, get you out of your comfort zone a little bit. Maybe post a recording of yourself playing the tune, even if it's not, totally polished. Just at the end of the month, what progress have you made? And for anyone who posts, they get entered to win a Sweetwater gift card at the end of the month. So that's a little perk for anyone who joins the Academy and then also posts their version of the Tune of the Month at the end of the month. So check out those links in the description. Thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. Bye-bye.